Hello again everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are building some terrain for our Mordheim table, and I decided that I was going to build something a little bit different than the normal ruined houses and ruined walls and that sort of thing that you see out there. And what I decided on was a graveyard, and the basic thing that you need for Mordheim terrain is it must be elevated. So we are building these cool, interesting looking elevated graveyards. And I started by cutting up some XPS foam just with a little OFA knife and going through all the scraps here and just disgusted at myself for all the foam scraps. And we built these little mausoleums over here, built a bunch of those, and then basically just took these big hills, we stacked them up, we carved the sides to make it look like rock. And then I'm taking a miniature and just putting it on there and taking a gander if these things are going to look right and are going to be the right size for our game. Next, I'm just taking some silicone caulking here and filling the gaps in the foam. We have such a rebellious piece of foam. Resist! Resist! Yes, the rebellious foam is the best kind of foam. But yeah, so we cover the gaps with the caulk. I know that a lot of people like to use like toilet paper, paper mache, that sort of thing. I like silicone caulking, it's cheap. And now I have just some gravestones that have been 3D printed here. And we're going to use these to tell a story, to give a little set dressing for our elevated graveyards here. And now I just hot glued those boys down. And I also have taken a little bit of aquarium rocks and I've glued those around the sides and in the steps and in some of the cracks to cover the gaps to make these look like runes. And then now we just taken the black magic craft Mod Podge glue, black paint, that sort of thing, and covered these boys. And this is just one of my favorite steps. A lot of people out there say this, and they're right. When you do this, when you finally prime everything, it comes together and you can kind of really start to see all this garbage that you've put in together, and it's starting to look like something. And I think that these would be great for Mordheim, these would be great for D&D, I think these would be great for Frostgrave. And now we are moving on to some basic undertones, and what I'm going to do is I'm taking some of this inexpensive craft paint and I'm going to use this dark blue to be the shadows, and I'm going to just kind of cover the sides of the cliffs here where the light would not reach, and then I will use the turquoise to paint these surfaces that are covered by the light. Now, I've been using this turquoise rock scheme for a while now, and I have several terrain pieces that match this color palette, and it just kind of goes to show that it's okay to not paint rocks and dungeons gray. Be colorful, be brave, try some different things, try reds, try oranges, try greens, try blues, try turquoises. This is a fantasy world that we're making terrain for, and I think also that it's art, and gray has its place, but not always. So sometimes it's fun to do things like this, and I think too that the turquoise and the blue just kind of leans into that sort of undead type vibe. And now I'm just taking some nice craft paint, some copper, and I've painted the tops of the mausoleums, say it with me now, mausoleums, and we're gonna wash that metal so it looks good. And also off camera, before I prime this, I don't think it was covered in the steps, but we had carved little grooves into the mausoleum, and we had carved some stone patterns on here, and you'll see the stone patterns once we close up, but basic bricks, and we blend the bricks into the walls with the caulking on that previous step, which I didn't mention. So there's that information for those of you who are interested in it. And now we're taking a little bit of a brighter turquoise, and we're going to kind of overbrush. So overbrush is much like a dry brush. We're going to wipe some of the paint off of the brush here, but we are going to let a considerable amount of paint rub off onto the surfaces. So it's somewhere in between. We're still getting some good coverage. And now I have this just a simple green craft paint, which I tend to dilute with some water because I just want sort of the after effect of the green, and I'm putting this down on just some random spots on the runes in order to just make it look like moss, like it's old and decrepit, maybe moldy, that sort of thing. The type of motif that you might go for in a graveyard, where maybe your D&D players stumble upon this ancient graveyard, and who knows what they find. But yes, now we have a generic pale sand. Shout out to Dana Howell, who's an amazing YouTuber, painter, person. Don't know her personally, but love her painting style, and introduced me to the pale sand. Shout out to pale sand below. Comment below if you enjoy pale sand as well. And now we are moving on to the flocking. I have some of these nice Green Stuff World leaves. I just put these things on everything. I love them. I buy them all the time. I put them on miniatures. And then I have this dead grass, and I think that this is going to be perfect. The combination of the dead grass, the fall autumn leaves, and then some of these nice kind of off-green tufts are going to really make this graveyard come alive and look like the real thing. And now I just have some... Ooh, whack the camera. Oops. And now we just take some glue here, and we're gonna hit the base, we're gonna hit some of the steps, we're gonna hit some of the surfaces, and start some of that flocking. But yeah, so we flock this guy, we dry brush a little bit with the pale sand, bring out that stone texture, put some leaves and some flocking and some tufts onto the base. And pretty soon we got a neat new item for our Mordheim table. And thank you everybody for tuning in, for being a part of this legendary tabletop community. We got some videos coming down the pipeline, and I appreciate every single one of you coming here and taking your time to listen to my malarkey, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. So thank you very much everybody for tuning in and checking out this video. We're going to roll that beautiful bean footage, and we're going to set up the Mordheim table. Check it out.